All right, guys, thanks for joining another episode of Evening Crypto with your boy, the Real Shot 256. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at the Real Shot 256. Thanks for joining, guys. Current state of the market, we're currently sitting at 253 billion and 58 billion 24-hour volume. Volume has been on the decline. We're about I want to say about 20 between 22 and 25% um, compared to the market cap. The volume just has definitely um, gone on a downslope in the last week or so. And like I've said before, it's sort of a bearish indicator, and we see it in the stagnation of the price of Bitcoin, not really doing much, not really going anywhere, not really pumping, except for Litecoin. But we'll talk about Litecoin here in a little bit and kind of how it's doing its own thing. So, again, I pay a lot of attention, and it's definitely one of those factors that I always bring into play when it comes to making decisions in my trading is definitely volume and how much volume we have traded in the last 24 hours. Again, once it gets into that 15 to 10% range of the market cap, that's when I start really, really worrying and really start thinking about, a possible dip and a big dip at that. And we are kind of due for one anyway. So, given that the volume has been decreasing and Bitcoin has been stagnating, as we see here for the last couple of weeks, looking at the 4-hour chart for the last couple of weeks, we've just been kind of sitting here in stagnation, not really doing much. With plenty of indecision, volume just kind of on the decline. You can kind of tell here if we draw a trend line right above the volume here, you can see that it's just been on a consistent decline over the past few weeks. Um, After getting into these higher price ranges up here, I mean it's just kind of been dwindling from there. So definitely something that I pay attention to um, going forward. I hope that you take that into consideration as well, and then hope that that suggestion actually helps you out a little bit in maybe bringing that as another factor to look at when making trading decisions. So Bitcoin, as we said, it's kind of been stagnating, kind of actually building a good support base for the future of price in Bitcoin. So that's actually a positive thing. I see that as a definite good thing when we revisit these ranges in price, whether it's coming back from a dip or actually correcting down from a big price hike or a surge in price. We will definitely be able to count on this as either support or resistance for future reference. But definitely, I think is a good thing. Some consolidation definitely going on here as well. So not ultimately not a bad thing that Bitcoin is stagnating here, as we did see that sort of behavior in the past, where Bitcoin just kind of hung around the $6,000 to $7,000 range back here, and it created a really good base. I mean, that's probably why we're seeing the price of Bitcoin, around the $7,000 to $8,000 now here, because we did see here we built a base here around the $5,600 range, the $6,000 range as well. Um, and now we're seeing that kind of do this whole consolidation and building support um, behavior here. So we might still be able to, we might still see Bitcoin keep on the same pattern here before it actually decides to turn back down and have a healthy correction. Now, some people are talking about a possible head and shoulders formation here forming up. Looking at the 4-hour, but if we look at the 1 day chart, the um, the pattern starts to become a little more clear in what people are suggesting. I've been seeing that on crypto Twitter and a few other places. Some Facebook people on some of the groups that I follow and part of. I've been seeing some people calling for a head and shoulders, but I'm here to tell you, no way, Jose. That's not really what's going on here. I mean, it's sort of a completely dysfunctional head and shoulders if you want to really call it something. I mean, you've got a double left shoulder here, a double top, double head here. So it'd be like a Siamese twin head, yeah, Siamese twin head and shoulders here, with again the double shoulder, the double head, and the right shoulder kind of forming around here. If anything, if we look at this area here, you could probably make the case, you know, just this area alone here could make a better case for, the head and shoulders formation. But again, we have kind of a double top here and sort of a double head and a double left shoulder. So, and also the volume signature is not there either. The pattern behavior and volume. Look at that trend line. Just it's on a declining trend. So yeah, it's really not the right volume pattern here either. So, I mean, that's one way to coordinate and actually confirm a head and shoulders formation. But this is nowhere near a typical head and shoulders formation. So, squash that. I don't trade in patterns either. So, um, I've never been a believer in that. So, if you are, sorry, I mean, I just don't think that's what's happening here. And I don't believe in these head and shoulder formations and these sort of other things. Not so much. I mean, sometimes they do play out. I'm not going to say they never do. Sometimes they do play out, but it is the crypto markets, and sometimes bots and the people with the big pockets and the people who know what they're doing can manipulate and help print a certain look into the charts. So again, don't put too much weight on it. Follow price action more than anything. Yeah, volume is definitely a hint. Moving averages is definitely a hint. You can see these moving averages. That's it kind of is it's self-explanatory. These averages kind of tell you where on average the price will be. So it will either pull up or down depending on where the price is. But just generally follow the moving averages and also the price action, the momentum. Like the stochastic is also a really good indicator that I use. But I'm also not a big fan of the thought that, hey, whenever something is oversold or overbought, then that means it can't go any further. It actually can, and it has, and that'll just prove to be a wrong mentality to have when trading. If it's in the oversold region, then guess what? It can still go down from there. Price action can. So don't rely too much on that. Again, look at more of the behaviors uh, in the in the moving averages, the volume. They're always good indicators. Math doesn't lie. They kind of always paint sort of a picture. Like right here, right now, Bitcoin sitting in the oversold area, the bearish zone. So it doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't dip from here. It really can. So don't pay too much attention to that um, going forward. So it does look like Bitcoin wants to head down some more. Let's go back. Let's go here to TradingView and look at it from there. So we can bring up all of our indicators, all of our moving averages along with it to give you better perspective. So here we are. Let's bring it up to the 4 hour, and it's sort of in a no man's zone as far as trading goes. It was definitely acting in this triangle pattern that kind of overfilled and now has poured over the triangle. I was originally thinking that it might break up or down. I mean, it kind of got to this point and it broke down and then went back up into it, above it, and now it's kind of again in stagnation, kind of doing its own thing. I mean, we can, and again, that's why I don't pay too much attention to these patterns because they can be purposefully or purposely painted there for us to see and then kind of try to act on it. So um, maybe this time it'll actually play out this scenario here, well, where we get about 70-75% full on this triangle formation, and then we can see a move either up or down. But right now, it's trading right at the 21 and the 30, but below all these other moving averages. Like the simple 200 is right above here. The 55 is also there, and the 89 exponential is also right on top of it, acting as resistance. So I mean, it's in a way it's sort of sitting where it should be. It's kind of the moving averages are starting to converge in that area. So it kind of makes or it makes me feel personally that it's trading right where it should be at the moment until further notice. So I mean, it's definitely no trade zone. Wish I could tell you more like sometimes in the past I've been able to call some of these on the right side and been able to really, I mean, based on the indicators and the hints that the charts will hand out, I can sometimes, with more certainty, tell you whether it's going to go up or down. But right now, it just seems like more consolidation, more accumulation, and nothing more than that. So sorry, I can't give you any more information. I wish I could. Um, but we'll just have to wait it out longer and react to the price. I don't necessarily want to be long or short on this one right now. So just stay tuned and watch it. That's all. That's about as best advice I can tell you. As far as setting stop losses, you know how I feel about that. I don't think that's a good strategy in crypto. It works in traditional markets, but not so much in crypto. So I would say if you're entering a trade, definitely watch it. Make sure you can pay attention to it and follow it until you see your exit point. All right, so that's what we got for Bitcoin, and I mean also the other thing is Bitcoin has for once um, it's 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 not doing well. Actually, let me take that back. Um, Bitcoin is not reacting with Litecoin. In fact, it could be said. I mean, this is debatable, but it could be said that Litecoin was definitely the leader of the pack when it came to the last this whole bull run, this whole surge in price back from early April. It can be debated that Litecoin actually was the primary actor and the influencer in this whole run. But Bitcoin at this point just kind of staying out of the race and doing its own thing, which I mean typically it does, and you can actually see it here too, where Bitcoin is just kind of doing its own thing, and everybody's following. I mean, as we've said before in this channel, Ethereum does pretty much anything that Bitcoin does. I mean, you can see it here. XRP kind of also doing what Bitcoin is doing, but in a more drastic way. They've actually been sitting around, excuse me, between the 38 and 40 cents range, not doing much above or below there. Again, more stagnation, maybe some more accumulation. Um, so I mean, not Bitcoin's just kind of dominating the rest of the market and kind of telling everybody to stay put, while Bitcoin or Litecoin has actually been the rebel of the pack and just going on its own path and doing its own thing. And part of it is, and let's bring up the chart. Come on. So part of it is, gosh, okay. So part of it is that the whole thing around the Litecoin halving coming up in less than 2 months, which I mean it's definitely a legitimate event. But in this case, in this scenario, when something like this is happening, where a big event, a big fundamental event is coming up, then TA kind of goes out the window, right? There's there's only so much you can do as far as TA, because again, this is a fundamental play. Bit or Litecoin is about to undergo its scheduled halvening in less than 2 months. People are aware of that, and the psychological aspect of trading kicks in. knowing that everybody is coming in to the market into Litecoin because of that event. Because historically, what has happened anytime we have a happening, whether it's Bitcoin or Litecoin, we do see a prior price surge happen again prior to the actual happening, and then we do see a dramatic drop off after that. It's sort of a buy the rumor, sell the news type of deal. But again, it's the psychological factor coming into play, and it truncates and it trumps all of the TA that you can possibly do. I mean, although it does paint a picture of a healthy chart, Litecoin does here. Again, I think, in my opinion, the fundamentals at play here are overtaking any technical analysis. So, my advice here is to keep playing the trend until you see a trend reversal, a confirmation. Perhaps we do see Litecoin breaking some of these averages with some conviction on the downside, and once we see it pass maybe the 55 or the 200 exponential or the 200 simple here down at the 113 level. If we were to see Litecoin do that, then you can definitely call that a reversal in trend, and it also would be healthy because again, if we bring the stochastic here, it'll say that we are overbought and we are due for a pullback. But again, that's what TA is telling you right now. However, that's good and dandy, but that's not going to work currently where we are at. Um, so again, follow the trend. The trend is your friend until the end of the trend. And if you see confirmation of a trend reversal, then it's probably time to dump your bags. I mean that's what I'd be doing. For an update, I don't know if I told you. I do remember telling you guys I came back in on the trade on Litecoin. I've been holding it since. Um, and I'll be honest with you guys. Mainly, I mean, not only did the TA was saying, yeah, you know what, it's probably a good idea to come back in, but also the big news, right? The happening, everybody's jumping on board because hey, Litecoin's going to is going to have the happening event, and what happens then, and so from that standpoint, honestly, guys, I've jumped in on the bandwagon and has actually worked out pretty good for me so far. So I plan on staying on this trade again until I see a trend reversal, and then from there, we'll reassess and look at where else we should go. I'll take a look at Ether, although we know that Ether is doing exactly what Bitcoin's doing. Um, but if you guys see something else, definitely leave it in the comments. Let me know what you guys are seeing. Maybe something that I'm missing. But again, I mean, looking at exactly the same picture at Bitcoin as Bitcoin above the 21 and the 30 simple, in between the 89 and the simple 200. I mean, it just and the 55. Just I mean, trading in no man's zone, indecisive. It's definitely going to do whatever Bitcoin does unless some another fundamental, like something that is really impactful and it really is meaningful to the core project comes out and that is of relevance and importance, then we can see and definitely say that okay, whether if it's good news, then Ether will definitely go on a price hike. If it's bad news, then it could definitely come back to test some of these levels down here. So nothing much to see there. Let's look at EOS. I know you guys like EOS a lot, so let's take a look at that. I personally don't hold any EOS bags. I've done some trades in the past that have been kind of fair, nothing to brag about. Um, kind of doing the same thing right now. I mean, it's right at the 21 in no man's land. We do have some support here, although I mean to be fair, this one's kind of under the 21 to 30 and the 89. So um, I kind of want to say it wants to test the $5.80 range, 588, 590 range, between 580 and 590 range. So I do think it wants to come back down and test these areas and kind of set a lower low for this, recent price action here. And if it does, I'd be looking for a retest and also a bounce as long as Bitcoin doesn't decide to ruin everybody's party like it did for XRP. And speaking of, let's go ahead and make a segue onto XRP and take a look at price action there. Let's see. I did also enter into back into XRP, although as I was telling you guys earlier, it's just been sitting around 38 to 40 cents, not really doing much. Just more of the same that every other coin is doing, which is to consolidate and sort of build a solid base for future price action. Whether it's support or resistance for future dips or surges. So again, under kind of looking droopy here under the 21 and the 30 simple here. I'm gonna guess that we're also gonna come back down and test the maybe the 37 cents range. If the 38 cents doesn't stop us here, I think it will. I mean, it has built some good support around 38 cents. And as I was telling you guys earlier, it's bouncing off the 38 cents and coming back up to 40 cents tops, and then from there, just coming back down there. Doesn't want to do much more than that. So it's sort of been a boring week in crypto trading, except for of course Litecoin. So if you are in Litecoin, that's a great thing. If you're not, I mean, um, I don't know if it's too late. You might still be able to catch some of the gains. Don't take it as financial advice. I only do this for entertainment purposes and hoping that you guys will get something out of this and hoping that you will learn something from my videos and from what I'm doing. Um, and nothing other than that. So again, if you guys are doing something different, if you guys are seeing something that I'm not, definitely let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to discuss that with you guys always. But other than that, I think, um, let's see. I wanted to look at, I know I wanted to look at another coin. Actually, XLM. I wanted to look at XLM. Take a look. XLM USDT. There we go. And yeah, I mean, same case as EOS. It wants to come down here and retest the 1180 range. 11 yeah 11 11.8. Um, currently under the 21 and the 30 simple. Wants to come back down to either uh, retest this area around 11.8, maybe back down here to the 10 simple at about 11 and a half, and we should see a bounce from here and back into these ranges here. It's sort of forming another sort of triangle here, like EOS is. There's some good resist or support here um, to bounce off of, but then also staying within these these patterns here, support and this descending resistance here. So we're about to get pretty full here on this triangle formation. Again, although I don't pay too much attention, sometimes they do play out. And again, with a little bit of manipulation and the right trading, you can have these formations actually play out. So we'll see a squeeze here, and then XLM having either a dip or a tight squeeze here, and then hopefully uh, for your benefit, hopefully a price hike. And if we do that, we're definitely going to test this the orange 100 simple here or the 55 uh, will be pretty good resistance here. But if we do get above those, then I do think we could definitely retest this local high back here in the 1280 area. So um, again, just depending on what Bitcoin does, if hopefully it doesn't decide to ruin the party for everybody else. Let's look at Bitcoin one last time before we go away. It looks like it's trading around 78.11 right now. But again, you know, not much going on there, honestly. Let's go back to the 4 hour here and look at that. Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of action there at all. Let's get a little granular and look at the 1 hour. That 1 hour looks like it wants to test this area down here, this ascending trend line that is acting as support down here around the $7,600 range, 76.50, 76.80. It does look like it wants to retest that area and possibly have a bounce back into the 7,800 area, hopefully. All right, so I mean that's all I got as far as technical analysis. Let me know again in the comments if I'm not seeing it as something that you guys are seeing. I'm gonna move away and look at the kin thing that's been going on. The SEC is suing kin over its $100 million token ICO. Excuse me, guys. So I haven't I decided not to comment on this because I'd had limited information into this whole SEC kin versus kin lawsuit going on in New York, and I didn't have the proper research into it, and I couldn't really build a case for either side. So not that I'm a lawyer or anything, but having done a little bit of research on what's going on, basically, I can tell you that Kin actually released their ICO pretty much in 120 different countries, and they also reached out and asked for securities regulation roadmaps or clarity on their ICO token prior to opening up the ICO or launching the ICO, if I should say. Sorry, guys, I'm still sort of fighting a cold. Um, so they asked for clarity from the SEC here in the U.S. and so not having the clarity that they wanted, so they went ahead with their ICO. They actually got clarity from both China and Canada. Mm, then the SEC, came back and said, "Hey, you've actually breached some regulatory boundaries here with your ICO." Now, what happened also, something that I want to touch upon is China and Canada did reach out and said, "Hey, if you do this, you're going to be breaching our securities laws," and that was on behalf of the SEC uh, um, equivalent in China and Canada, reaching out to Kin and saying, "Hey, you're going to be out of compliance here if you decide to do that." So guess what Kin did? They actually pulled back their ICO from both China and Canada, knowing that, having clarity from the SEC equivalent in those countries, they decided to not go ahead and offer it to the citizens of China and Canada. Not having that same clarity here in the United States, Ken went ahead and said, "Okay, well, United States SEC, you guys aren't providing the proper clarity on how we should proceed, and so therefore we are going to launch our ICO." And now, after that was back in 2017. Now, since that, the SEC has now has cried wolf, saying that, "Hey, you've actually breached our SEC regulatory and compliance rules. You're out of compliance, and we're going to sue you." So, back in 2017 when they asked for it, the SEC was unable to provide any sort of clarity. Now, in 2019, I believe back in February, the SEC provided a sort of a, I wouldn't say even a roadmap because it's not a roadmap. They offered a recommendation on how to conduct your ICO or similar offering, which, by the way, if you do comply, if you're a crypto project, cryptocurrency project or blockchain related project, and you want to comply with that recommendation, uh, forget about being a legitimate cryptocurrency based project. I mean, it really kills off what this industry is about and what typical ICOs and new upcoming projects in the space have been doing. Um, it basically takes away all of the components that make a cryptocurrency based project what they are in the space. Um, so also Jake Chervinsky, he's a known crypto Twitter personality who also happens to be a lawyer in the securities arena. You might want to follow him, Jake Chervinsky. I'll put the Twitter handle on the description of the video. So he's a securities lawyer, and he actually went out and said that Kin actually got what they were asking for, got what they deserved. They knew they were an ICO and were breaking regulatory boundaries by offering their ICO to American investors. And that's fine and dandy and all, but again, the SEC never provided clarity back in 2017. And so, that's unfortunate because now you can't go back and say, hey, even though we didn't provide you with any official rules or roadmaps on how to conduct your ICO, it's like walking blindly into a room and not knowing what the hell you're doing in there. So I do kind of side on the side of Kin as a company, um, not having the regulatory roadmap to follow, like even a recommendation that wasn't available back in 2017. So I do side with Kin on this one, but that's based on my research, based on what I've been able to come up with. You might have a different opinion. You might have something that I'm missing. Again, leave it in the comments. We'll discuss that. And also the other thing that I wanted to tell you guys, and this video is getting kind of long, so I do apologize, but in the sake of time and respect for your time and mine, this will be the last story for the day. Cryptocurrency will replace national currencies by 2030, according to futurists. Not So this has been going around in both, and thank you money.com for the accolade and the optimistic outlook for Bitcoin, saying that it will replace all currencies by 2030, approximately 10 and a half years from now. um, yeah, it's definitely something that can be appreciated. It's sort of a complement, if you will, to the industry and Bitcoin as a whole. Um, and it goes along with another thing that's been flying around the interwebs and crypto Twitter, that Bitcoin will hit $1 trillion market cap. So I wanted to talk about those two issues together because number one, I think again it's the wrong mentality to have. Excuse me. Bitcoin will or may replace some fiat currencies in the world to become, one of the mostly or widely used mediums of exchange. But to say that or put a date on it, I think is the wrong mentality. Um, when you have when you have the proper adoption and people are actually flocking to Bitcoin, and that people are actually seeing the value of said currency with the fact that um, it's a deflationary, not an inflationary currency, and that there's proper financial rules, and that the code built within Bitcoin is really what what brings the value to every user. I think naturally we're going to have more and more people, more and more adoption, and the growth of that. But it's all dependent upon the rate of adoption. We can't just go out there and say, yeah, by 2030, by 2040, by said date, in 5 years, this is going to happen. It really just comes down to the rate of adoption. The quicker people adopt Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, the quicker we'll get there. The slower that happens, then the more elongated that process is going to be. Now, will we replace all national currencies? That's yet to be determined. I personally am skeptic of that idea. I do think that Bitcoin will be bigger than Visa and Mastercard, and but I also don't think that Bitcoin is going to be the only game in town. I think Litecoin certainly will make a definite use case. Litecoin will be sort of the Mastercard to Visa, right? And there will be more than one option now. Facebook also coming up with their cryptocurrency. Theirs is going to be pegged to a basket of currencies, world fiat currencies, for to make it more of a stable. It will actually be a stable coin. It'll just be pegged to a basket of international currencies, and it's set to be deployed in developing countries where the stablecoin is much more needed, more of a viable option, more of a need for these countries such as Zimbabwe, South America, Argentina, Venezuela, where hyperinflation is a definite threat to anybody's wealth and well-being. So, um, going back to the thought of Bitcoin taking over, again, I think there will be more than one option with actually Litecoin. There's a number of currencies that can make a case for it. Monero, Zcash, Dash. I mean, they're all viable options, and I think it doesn't have to be one to rule them all. I think maybe Dash will rule in Venezuela. Maybe Monero will rule in Zimbabwe, and Bitcoin might rule in Argentina, places like that. Excuse me. And to take it a step further, I've actually spoken to a good buddy of mine, good friend of mine, um, who's living in Buenos Aires. He's not into Bitcoin. He's not into cryptocurrencies. But what makes his opinion very valuable to me is that he's since he's not paying attention, he's true organic opinion on what's going on. He can give you an unbiased opinion. If you talk to somebody who's a Bitcoiner or cryptocurrency enthusiast, they will tell you, "Oh yeah, it's everywhere, man. It's being adopted here. I just saw this other business bring it into their merchant account services, whatever. It's definitely happening." What I like about my friend down in Argentina is that he can definitely give me an unbiased opinion and a more organic view of really what's going down there. He does travel a lot. He travels to Chile, Venezuela, Colombia, as a professor in based out of Buenos Aires, and his opinion was that of um, cryptocurrencies are still a very nascent technology. Not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people are aware that this is happening, and so the people in South America are still, to this day, hedging with the dollar. That is their go-to plan. That is what mentally has been ingrained in them since years and years, especially since hyperinflation came about. In recent history, these citizens of South America, Venezuela, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, they flocked always to the dollar as a way to hedge for inflation, and that was a big shocker to me because again, this is why I started this channel because of all the hoorah, all the misinformation, all of the just just hype and fallacies that are being thrown out there in both crypto Twitter, YouTube, um, Facebook, every social platform. You see this every day. And so, having access to somebody who is not in the industry and can give you an unbiased opinion is, in my opinion, invaluable. And it really, really paints a true picture of what's going on down there. Although the charts will show you that, oh yeah, I mean, Venezuela has flocked in a massive way to over to cryptocurrencies. It's all relative. This is great technology. I'm a huge proponent of the space. I'm enthusiastic about blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But the reality is that people are not hedging into cryptocurrencies as much as they are hedging with a dollar still to this day. So hopefully that will bring a little bit of light to a lot of the things that are being said out there in that regard. Um, yeah, my going back to my friend, he has seen more widespread adoption among some of the businesses, especially he said. I'll quote him on this. He said that in the more touristy areas, he's seen definitely an upgrow of acceptance in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So in those areas where there's a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists coming around, a lot of attractive areas like the beaches, the coasts, those areas in Argentina and Buenos Aires, have seen an uptake in adoption. So again, hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what's going on down there, and just the hype that you hear every day around crypto Twitter and all of the social media platforms. If you got something out of the video, definitely share it with your friends, family, whoever is interested in cryptocurrencies and blockchain in general. Hope you enjoyed the TA. As I said before, definitely follow us on Twitter at the Real Shot 256, and also Instagram. I post daily content, and it's a good way to see what I'll be talking about in these videos. If there's anything you'd like me to cover, any coins, anything, any projects that you're interested, definitely let me know. I would be more than happy to join you in that. So thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great night.